Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ohio State Primetime Live. I'm your co-host, Ryan Stano.
I'm Garrison Gaddy.
Well, Garrison, we talked last week about how we were hoping that we were going to be on this show with smiles, and I'm grinning ear to
Yes,
ear.
sir.
I know you are too.
Oh yeah.
It's a great game. Cotton Bowl, great game. Could not have been any better. Um, didn't really go as what we thought it was going to go as far as,
hmm
how it played out, but a win is a win is a win. And I want to know your initial thoughts about, how they won, Texas as an opponent, just everything, just the game as a whole. What are your first impressions about the game?
I honestly looked at that game the same way I did the Penn State game. Of course, it came out differently, but I thought there were multiple chances in that game where Ohio State could have dominated Texas. Thought there were multiple times in that game, specifically in the first half, first quarter, where Ohio State uh, could have taken a double-digit lead by at least 10 points. Uh, I, I was in a pretty good space the other day, and cool guys in there. But I told him, I said, I didn't see the game as that close. I just think that it came down to yes, the score was close, but I mean, it wasn't like Texas was doing something specifically that was hard, that was stopping Ohio State, at least not in the first half. It became that in the second half, specifically in the third quarter. But I thought that Ohio State had probably four, maybe three drive killers I thought they were going to score on in Texas territory. And then, I mean, but at the end of the game, that 108th ranked red zone offense showed up. And the number 2 ranked defense came in terms of the red zone. And Jack Sawyer made the biggest play of my lifetime.
Yeah. You know, a lot of things to talk about from this game, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we thought was going to happen ended up being correct. Texas didn't really stop Ohio State. Ohio State stopped Ohio State.
Yeah.
Because offensively, they were rolling, but it was penalties. It was stupid penalties that killed them. 3 consecutive drives. They had penalties that put them behind the sticks. Personal foul with Trevion Henderson. They had a couple holdings in there as well. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, they ended up having to punt because they were behind the sticks. It was 2nd and 20, 2nd and 25, 3rd and 18. It was just penalty after
It was
penalty.
ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, yes. And, as we mentioned before, we didn't think that Texas's defense was going to be able to really match up with Ohio State. I still believe that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the case
Yeah.
because if not for those penalties, I think they could have scored on all of those drives, quite frankly. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think?
I completely agree. I thought that the offense was rolling in the first half. Will Howard was throwing some questionable balls, but damn it, he was completing them and it looked good. There were throws that if CJ was throwing, I wouldn't be upset about. Those are throws that I have not seen him throw.
He
I
was
mean
dealing, I
throws.
thought, early on. I know there were a lot
No,
that were close,
no.
but he
I
was
wasn't
feeling it.
mad. No. I think the last few games have his confidence at an all-time high. I'm not mad at him for completing those passes. Like I thought that was the those are NFL type passes that he was throwing. Like where you don't have a lot of room, you got there's half a second or even less than that to get the throw off, and you get it off. Um, but
I agree.
I thought that more importantly, and I think you agree with this also. We spoke about this. A lot of the questions people had were about the Ohio State offense, when in reality they should have been talking about how does Texas score. And going into the week, I expanded my score from 30 to 36 or 38 or something like that. But it was because I didn't see how Texas was going to drive the ball in Ohio State. I mean, the 2 times they scored is because for some odd reason we forgot to keep seeing the running back out of the backfield. Twice that happened. All the way down the field that happened. But
It
outside
was
of
just
that, they
wheel
couldn't
routes,
move the
like on
ball.
NCAA 25, shark wheel. they kept spamming shark wheel.
But I mean, what was it? 8 drives that Texas didn't score on. It's
Yeah.
that was just amazing. JTT, I mean, the way he played, he's been playing like that all playoff with Jack. to hurt his ankle, come back in, still do well. Good, shout out to Kenyatta for playing the way he did. Jermaine Matthews, what a game!
Yeah,
What a
Jermaine,
game! I know he had a game because I didn't hear his name. That's how I know he had a good game.
and when you did, it was good because he was making tackles, he was staying in coverage, and
that pass interference was BS. That was complete bullshit. That was great defense by him.
I thought it was close.
You can't see where he when I see it, it looked like that wide receiver tripped and he jumped ahead. He got out in front of it and tried to swat it down.
What it looked like to me was he pulled him. He used his other arm to kind of hook him and turn him, and that's what they throw. That's the flag they throw.
He didn't even turn. That was a terrible call. The one before that was just stupid on Rams's part. I thought Jermaine was gonna knock his head off on that play.
Yeah.
Quinn. Oh my gosh. But no, the defense played really good. They held Texas to 14 points.
And you and I talked about the fact that we didn't think Texas was really going to be able to score on Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Nationally, it didn't seem like that was something that was much of a thought for them. And if speaking specifically to the defense, I thought they played outstanding football. The defensive line was putting pressure on Quinn Ewers. He wasn't able to step up in the pocket. It was just collapsing all around him. And he was tucking the ball early because he could feel that pressure coming from the outside from Sawyer, from JTT, even up the middle. Tyreek Williams had some good pressure. Ty Hamilton, even the back, like Caden Curry got some pressure too. You mentioned Kenyatta already, so I thought it was a masterclass.
Curry also had that forced fumble on the punt. That was going to be a touchdown. Look,
they got lucky on a couple of those. They got lucky on a couple of those fumbles that just happened to bounce right back to them.
They did, but that punt return is going to be a touchdown. I saw the forest from the trees, man. that he was like it was gone in that.
Yeah.
I want to let's talk about this because this is big. Texas did exactly what they should have done. They did exactly what they should have done, and everyone, maybe to this extent, no, but we all knew it was going to happen. And I think a lot of us kept saying, Cardinal Tate has to be the guy there. And outside of that drop touchdown, man, he played exceptionally well.
Yeah, that drop was bad. That hit him right in the hands. It was right here. It was bad, but he did make up for it later. And he got bailed out because Quinshawn scored on the very next play. But Texas saw what Oregon did, was like, we're not falling for that. We're making sure number 4 is not going to beat us. And quite frankly, I thought he could have caught that long ball on that first drive. I thought he just mistimed his jump. I thought it was a decent throw from Will.
Jeremiah?
And it went right through his hands.
That should have been a touchdown.
And he wasn't the only one. Emeka had a drop as well. There were drops from a couple guys. So I thought Will was dealing, like I said, most of the game. That interception he had was really bad. He tried to force it into Jeremiah. That was the one.
He got excited. Decision. He got excited. I wasn't even mad at him for that. You got excited. It was you hadn't been past Jeremiah all game. It was somewhat of a 15, 16 yards he was throwing. I'm gonna be honest with you. All game, I was not worried.
I wasn't worried. I was definitely nervous on that in the fourth quarter to start the fourth quarter. Because the third quarter was bad. Third quarter was bad. We had some of those penalties, and also Chip Kelly kind of turtled. It seemed like the play calling turned into, okay, we're either going to run it up the middle or we're going to throw pass routes that are behind the line of scrimmage or parallel to the line of scrimmage. And those kind of plays just don't work against that Texas defense. I think he
was doing that to walk their defense up. I think that's why he was doing it, because we couldn't go deep all game.
Maybe. I don't know why he did it. What I can say.
That's the only reason I could get. Listen, that's just me trying to save face for him. Outside of that, I don't know why he would do that. Unless nobody was open. Either,
but it worked out in the end, strictly because Will was able to find more time in the pocket, and he was able to roll out. I
Yeah.
thought in the fourth quarter on that drive where they took the lead, it was 3rd and long, and that roll out to the left, and he found Carnell Tate. I thought that was one of the biggest plays in the whole game, because if they don't complete that pass, it's 4th down and they're punting again, and Texas has all the momentum, and things get even more, things get a lot nervy. And, to be able to roll out to his left, and Tate had a good route. He was wide open. I thought that was great. And then the other play that 4th and 1, that was a good call by Chip to load, have 3 wide receivers on the right side, and then run QB power to the left where there were no other defensive backs there. And he should have scored. He Daniel Jones. He fell over the turf. So you got to give Chip some credit for that. And
the play before that allowed us to do that.
The G. Scott fighting for more yards.
Yeah,
absolutely. And this was also the first time that we've seen the offensive line kind of have some issues. The Tennessee and the Oregon game, they were fantastic. They were great. We started seeing them break down a little bit, and they allowed some sacks. They allowed Texas to get pressure, and Will was able to stand in the pocket and take some hits. And you saw that bump on his hand. I'll call it lightly. That was a
that bruise. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was just. I thought that was one of the most. I thought that was the guttiest performance I've seen all season from him, because he was able to stand in the pocket. He made the plays when they needed to make plays, and obviously, yeah. And obviously, that play at the end of the half was huge. At the end of the first half, the Trey screen pass. How do you let that happen if you're Texas?
Well,
it's malpractice.
You win. I don't know why they were in prevent, but that's what they were in. They had 8 deep, sent 3, and they had 3 offensive linemen 20 yards down the field. 20 yards down the field. Dude. I think from the time Travion caught it, they probably took 5 to 7 steps before they found somebody to actually touch. And even the guys they blocked, they barely even blocked. It was just kind of big bodies in the way.
Yeah.
And then, it's a great call. He's saying, Travion's going to bring it from anywhere, and there he goes. He's been just a great player for Ohio State this season. Just with Trey not having to take all the carries that he has taken the past few years, and having a guy like Junkins who can carry that load, and even he didn't carry the load that he has the last 2 years. I think we're seeing what a week-to-week healthy Travion looks like. It's explosive.
It's not just him being able to stay healthy, because like you mentioned, Quinshawn had a big load the last couple of years at Ole Miss too. So having 2 grade A running backs being able to switch out for each other and be able to stay fresh, especially with a longer college football season, that's been huge all year.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why they went to go get Judkins, is because, Trey, let's face it, he's been injury prone. So they wanted to keep him fresh. They wanted to be able to have him healthy for big games like this. And we've seen what a difference that makes, because he's got, he's had his explosiveness back this season. He's been able to break these big, long runs, whether it be on screen passes or just simple handoffs. And he's been able to take them to the house. And I thought that singular play at the end of the first half, that knocks all the wind out of their sails, because they had
for sure
right after scoring that touchdown. And Ohio State got the ball back to start the second half. Now they didn't do anything with it. But Texas had all the momentum going into halftime. And then to see that happen, you could tell Sark was pissed. You could tell he was not happy with how that was going to work out for them. And it's just another big play for Henderson in terms of, his catalog. But what do you think was said to Henderson for him to react like that? Because he hasn't said anything. Ryan Day didn't say anything, specifically.
Yeah.
What do you think had to have happened for him to do something like that? Because that is way out of character for him.
The way I see it, dude, is that He's 22 years old. I don't know what he got. I don't know what was said to him. He got emotional. He's a kid. I mean, to me, he's a kid. I mean, I just, I don't know. I've never seen Trevion react like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume that guy said something he didn't like. But I mean, what I hated about it, I like seeing that fire out of Trey, but at the same time, it seems like after that, the penalties start to snowball.
Yeah.
I think that when you have a leader like Travion Henderson, which he is for the Ohio State program and his team, when they are going to take on their leaders and their coaches, and when you do that, maybe some other guys their heads isn't all the way. And I think that's exactly what happened, and it cost us. It cost us in that first half a lot of points.
Well, it was disappointing to see him react like that, just because he's a senior leader. Like, he's been around for forever. That's not something you expect to see him do. But obviously he made up for it with that screen pass. Taking it to the house. Yeah. That more than made up for it. Yeah. What did you? So I know you briefly brought it up as far as the game plan to kind of stop Jeremiah Smith. Do you think that is something that do you think that was the right move for them? Do you think they should have had those 2-3 guys bracketing him all the time and just kind of saying, you know what, we're going to make other Ohio State wide receivers beat us? Or do you think they kind of overplayed their hand?
I think they overplayed their hand. It was very clear to Ohio State that they were I think they knew coming into the game they were going to try and stop Jeremiah from getting the ball. They barely went to Jeremiah. As it was, they barely looked his way. And so I believe that when you do that, mind you, you have the Thorpe Award winner at corner. I can't tell. He wasn't out there by himself. Had his whole secondary out there grabbing hands with him, slapping ass. So he wasn't out there by himself trying to hold Jeremiah. If you do that, again, Carnell Tate would be wide receiver 1 on 99.98% of your guys' college football teams. For any other fan base that's watching this. So it wasn't surprising to me that Carnell came out there and got, what was it, 7 for 80 plus? Yeah. That was not surprising to me.
Well, yeah, you and I had talked about it all week. We said this could be a game where Carnell Tate starts to, break out a little bit, just because there's going to be so much attention on Jeremiah. Like, we knew that going in. So there was one play.
The tight ends got the ball. Do it if you want to. Do it if you want to.
Yeah.
Like we won a football. I want people to grasp this, because a lot of people are talking about, everyone's saying Texas, did exactly what they had to do. I want to point this out. Jeremiah Smith had 1 catch for 3 yards. Ohio State had 75 penalty yards. That's almost a football field's worth. I mean, what else, man? I mean, Will Howard threw an interception. We didn't play our best game.
No.
I would say we played a B game. B plus.
You know what? I will give Texas some credit. I'll say they played their B plus game, because the defense was great. The defense was great really the whole time. Offensively,
I think they played their A minus game. I really do.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay. Offensively, it was probably B plus. Just because the penalties, the offensive line, that was the first time we've seen them struggle a bit. The interception was really, really bad. But because you can have the luxury of playing your B plus offensive game with with a defense that is so good. Like, when the defense is that good and not allowing Texas to do anything offensively, you can afford to do that. So, that's great. Defensively, I want to talk about the defense here a little bit. There were a couple things that I wanted to hear your take on. Specifically, I know Ryan Day said Denzel Burke had upper extremity issues. That was the reasoning for him not playing the whole second half. He missed that. He did have a big missed tackle in the first half.
That was his last play.
Yeah, exactly. He went out there. He missed that tackle. Never saw him again. And Jermaine Matthews came in and played well. First off, do you believe, Day, that it was just upper extremity issues, or do you think he got benched? I'll start with that.
He got benched. Because listen, maybe he did have something happen going on in his upper extremities. But missed tackles like that in a game like this can't happen. They can't happen.
And if you've got upper extremity issues, I feel like I don't know. I can't say one way or the other, but I'm 50-50. I don't know what to believe.
Right. The way it looked like to me, man, is he got benched, and my guy Maine came in and played his ass off. Like that Jermaine Matthews being able to come in, knowing that, and here's the cool part: they didn't have to take him off the field. They didn't have to rotate anybody. And this is what we mean when people say Jermaine Matthews is the best cover corner on this team. He is the best cover corner on this team. I thought that
Jordan Hancock played pretty damn well.
He's been playing really well all season.
Yeah.
He really has.
I can tell you he's not the best cover corner.
Oh man,
David Osen, he's the most. You see, he's got the most penalties of anyone in coverage this season, 14 of them, and he added another one in the Cotton Bowl. So we know it's not him.
It's funny. Listen, I'm okay with him having one. He basically averages one a game. I'm okay with that. Because the rest of the film, the rest of it, flawless. He locks down. He does. Is he touchy? Yes. He plays it like a linebacker. I've said it before. But I think that makes it 15 penalties. He's played well over 200, 300 snaps.
He's got 14 penalties, yeah.
Yeah, he's played well over 400 snaps. I mean, the guy, outside of that, he's doing what he does. Caleb Downs, man.
He saved a touchdown on a tackle coming up.
Yep.
They had a guy break loose. He comes up, shoestring tackle. He stumbles down, saves a touchdown on that play, and then Texas ended up having to having a bunt. He is. I know we talked about this before. The fact that I think it was ESPN had him as like the 19th best player, like in the CFP, like that's a joke. That's a freaking joke.
There's no way. Listen, man. The two best players in the CFP were what I don't care what anyone says are Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. And if you want to throw it all in now, number 3 is Jack. Number 4, I mean, I saw today like the top 10 PFF scores.
Mm-hmm.
I think 4 of the top 10 were Ohio State, or 3 of the top 10.
Yeah.
3 of the top. Yeah. Then the 10th was Notre Dame. But no, it was a great win. It was very exciting. I was at my brother-in-law and sister's house with some other friends. We had a lot of touchdown tequila shots, which made the next morning a little rough.
Yeah.
But I was very pleased, and again, I remember where I was when Ezekiel Elliott ran 85 yards on the Ohio South. I remember where I was, and even till today, when I sit there and watch that highlight, I choke up. It's a very huge moment for Buckeye fans. This one right here, dude. It was just.
Do you think it's better, or do you think it's interesting? Okay.
Yes. And here's the thing, and you'll appreciate this because I'm a Michigander. I'm a Buckeye, but I'm a Michigander.
Yeah.
So having a guy come from Pickerington, knowing that's it's in Columbus.
Yeah, yep.
The kid grows up as a Buckeye. He's had all these failures through his career as a Buckeye. For about 2.6 years, wasn't what we thought he was going to be. And then this playoff comes, and then you go against Texas on the big stage in the Cotton Bowl of Dallas, Texas. And to seal the deal, you do that's something, man, that Chase Young does. That's something that Joey and Nick Bosa do. That's what those guys do. And you go in, that's something Vernon Golston would do. Something Will Smith would do. Something Cameron Haber would do. And you go out there and do it, man. It
was a great play. It's definitely one of the greatest plays in Ohio State history.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it might just be just a hair below 85 yards Ohio South, just because that whole season was
nuts. Hard.
I mean, that whole season was nuts. Third string quarterback playing in that game. Alabama was the king. They weren't just the kings of the SEC. They were the kings of college football.
Yeah.
And to do that in the South, that game was played in New Orleans. It was an Alabama home game, essentially. And to go ahead and knock them out like that and take the first college football national championship, again, with your third string quarterback, that's something special. Like Texas, we knew Texas was good, but no one really thinks they're special. They're not a special team. No. The Alabama team back then was special. You look at that roster, you look at how many NFL guys they had, up and down, All-Americans, it was wild. So that's why I've got that slightly ahead. Don't get me wrong.
Jonathan Allen.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Jack, again, what Jack did, really damn good, and it's obviously going to be remembered forever, especially if they seal the deal on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, right now, if you ask my top three, yeah, it would be Jack Sawyer's touchdown, Zeke's. Shoot. And then, 3A, 3B between the Holy Buckeye play and Maurice Claret's strip of Sean Taylor.
You know what's interesting? A lot of people have Holy Buckeye up there. It's against a Purdue team that wasn't good.
It was an important deal. Listen, man. A lot of those games
I
were close.
understand that helped us eventually get to the national championship, but it wasn't like it was a seminal game.
No,
and that helped them win the game 10-6. Like, it's not like Ohio State's defense or offense was great, and maybe that's why it's so high up there. But
speaking of, I got a scary text. My buddy Cam, he's from Ohio, but he's a Miami fan. He texted me today, just 5 minutes ago, and said that this game reminds him of the Miami-Ohio State game, but we're Miami.
Are you talking about the Notre Dame game?
Yeah. I think the odds are a little bit more in Miami's favor than ours compared to Notre Dame's, but I see what he's saying.
I understand what he's saying. The difference between the 0-2 team and now, everyone around college football looked at Ohio State and were like, they just get lucky because of how many close wins they had. I mean, it's the cardiac Buckeyes. Every single game was close.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's a good team. And they've had to, they've definitely had an easier path, don't get me wrong, to get there. But the beating Georgia is not, that's no small feat. They beat the SEC champion. So
you beat Penn State. We can't sit here and act like these teams aren't very talented.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand what he's saying. I get the comparison there. I just don't think it's quite a true comparison there. But, one more thing I want to talk about here.
I think he meant it more in the sense of just there's no reason you can. There's no little reason why you could pick Notre Dame to win this game. That same way, there's no reason you could pick Ohio State to win that game.
I think there's a reason you could pick Notre Dame to win this game. Their defense is really darn good. Now, do I think
their pass defense is good. Their run defense is god awful.
I don't think it's god awful.
It's terrible.
If it was god awful, Georgia would have ran all over.
Georgia's running game hasn't been good all year.
Sure, but okay, if you're going with not good and god awful, if you got some stats, pull out the stat sheet. Let's hear it.
Sir? Well, I posted this the other day. This one's just off the top of the dome because I remember it. They are ranked, I think, 91st in the nation against the gap scheme. Giving up, I think. Let me see. Do I have it actually? I have it right here. I'm sorry. Yeah, on PFF, they're ranked 75th in the nation against the gap scheme, giving up 5.5 per run, and then 3.4 yards after contact. OSU runs the ball gap scheme this playoff 6% of the time. That rush defense is not what you think it is. It is not, like, by a long shot. I have it somewhere else here. I'll find it for you.
I wouldn't exactly
here we go.
say Ohio State is
Notre Dame versus
between the tackles.
I gotcha. Notre Dame versus the run. They have a 42.5% success rate. That's 90th in the nation. That run defense is not what you think it is. It is not what you think it is. And there are plenty of games to point to that will show you that it is not. Georgia's run game. Like, this is why I was so bullish on Notre Dame being Georgia. Georgia can't run. They got a backup quarterback. They can't catch. There was no reason why they were going to beat Notre Dame. This is different. This is not an average run game you're going to. Ohio State's not a run first team. We all know that.
Yeah,
it's better than what it's much better than what Georgia's giving up.
Yeah, okay. This is a good point here by Bootil as far as that Miami comparison. Ohio State, they were waiting like 40 days to play that game. Both teams had a long layoff for that national championship.
Oh yeah.
And this game, they're quote unquote fresh. There's no rust there. It's just a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
But I know we were talking about Notre Dame a little bit, but there's one other thing I want to talk about with the Cotton Bowl before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
What does Ohio State have to do to get a holding call? Like, what the hell do they have to do?
Repeat. What do we have to do to get anything?
You realize they're 134th out of 134 teams in FBS in opponent penalty yardage. In opponent penalties called.
Here's the thing. It sucks because the only way I could justify, not even justify, but see that happening because teams think, kind of like Shaquille O'Neal thing where they don't call fouls because you're bigger than everybody, you're stronger than everybody, you kind of have the advantage, and they can't really tell if it is. But there was what happened to our defensive ends specifically, even guys like Kenyatta, is crazy. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, and it's not like this is happening against Marshall where there's a giant talent gap. I mean, it did. They didn't call any penalties then either. But still can't get one against Oregon, Texas, Tennessee. And there's clear holds. They called a holding on Ohio State, Josh Fryer. There were worse holds I saw Texas commit than Josh Fryer did. I just don't. It boggles my mind. It's frustrating. I don't know exactly what Ohio State has to do to rectify that because I don't think it's going to get rectified in this final game either. But opponents for Ohio State are only getting 3.7 penalties called against them a game. That's absurd.
That's insane. I just don't get how. What do you got to do to get some penalties called against the other team? What do you got to do?
And actually, one of the penalties that they called against, there were a couple times actually where we got away with something like Jordan Hancock had a clear pass interference, like he held the guy's jersey and they just didn't call it, which that was cool. Maybe that felt bad about not having all those holdings. So, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to cover here about the Cotton Bowl?
No, this right here is where I want to go.
Okay.
So of course I watched the Georgia Notre Dame game and the whole. I watched that mostly just as entertainment. Same thing with the Notre Dame Penn State game. I watched this game today. Watched all of it. Fast forward to the commercials.
Yep.
Because I looked at their schedule and I said, okay, they haven't really gone against any really good pass teams. And USC was the best that they have faced this year. It was the only top 10 ranked one. I think the next was Georgia at 14, but that's on a curve because of what.
Okay. Sure, that Gunnar Stockton, not Carson Beck. Not that Carson Beck's great.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. And so that was the one I looked at. So, okay, you're going to get some really good wide receivers, one of the better wide receiver units in the country. Maeva's a pretty good quarterback, going to be one of the better ones in the Big Ten next season. And Lincoln, for all his failures, is still one of the best play callers offensively in the nation. USC gassed them. They gassed them. And the only reason I care to watch this game is because that's the closest thing you're going to see to Ohio State. The closest thing.
Like you, I watched, that game, watched the Penn State game, obviously. Part of the reason why Penn State was able to run the ball is because, kind of like Notre Dame, Drew Aller was awful. I mean, Drew Aller, the hype around Drew Aller, I don't really understand. I don't get it. We saw it against Ohio State. I don't think he's very good. He's just a big dude. Yeah, he's just a big dude.
With a rocket arm.
Yeah. That interception he threw late was inexcusably bad.
Yeah.
And I what concerns me about Notre Dame, their defense, their pass defense is good, but they play a lot of man, which is good for Ohio State because, as we've seen, Jeremiah shreds man. And I don't think that's something they're really going to be able to change at this point in the season. They're probably going to roll with what they do best. And without Benjamin Morrison, it makes things even harder for them. So I am concerned. They have the special teams advantage. Notre Dame, special teams, A. I mean, kickoff return, punt returns, fake, all that shit. They're just better than Ohio State.
Yep.
So that's where I think they can make up a little bit of ground and possibly, win this game. Would be some special teams voodoo stuff. I don't think Notre Dame's offense is going to be able to move the ball really at all. Their offensive line is really good. They're going to be able to run the ball a bit because their offensive line is good, but they might be missing 2 offensive starters. We already know they're down 1. They're down to their third string, tackle. They might be missing another one. So that definitely gives me hope that they're going to be able to stop the
right guard.
game.
Yeah, they're missing their right guard.
Yep.
And then the left tackle. So the left tackle that got hurt before the season is the one who's going to be playing this game.
Yeah. And I don't. What Ohio State's probably going to do is they're probably going to have the same kind of game plan they had for Oregon, where they're going to have a spy. Like Cody Simon's going to be that designated spy again on Riley Leonard and passing downs. Because obviously he's a much bigger threat to run than Gabriel was. If he doesn't see anything, he's going to just take it up the gut and try to get as many yards as he can. So that's definitely something that Ohio State's going to have to be prepared for, and I think they'll be prepared for. And other than their defense forcing some turnovers and getting pressure on Will Howard, because that is a little bit of a concern as well. We saw the offensive line kind of. I don't want to say it was the worst game they played in the college football playoffs so far. I mean, Luke Montgomery got beat a couple times. Saravel, Chabot, really just Carson Hinsman. Can you get a snap to Will Howard above his knees, please? Just once. Snap it to his chest, please.
Right.
So that part is a concern because I could see Notre Dame getting a turnover and then having a short field to work with, and that's how they score points. So as long as that doesn't happen, I think Ohio State is sitting in a good spot.
Yeah, I have all these numbers. I can talk, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what do you do? I try to simplify things for myself because I'm like, okay, if I simplify it, I can pinpoint something and say these are non-negotiables. Running man against Ohio State is not a good idea. I don't care who's in your secondary. Don't care. I think that
the only way that they're going to make that man-to-man work is if they're also going to be able to send blitzers at Howard. and kind of confuse the
It-
offensive line. And that's the only
yeah,
way it's going to work. But I tend to agree with you. It's probably not
I
great.
just don't like it. I don't see how. Again, if you're gonna do that, you're asking a linebacker to stay with Travion in the passing game. Um, it's clear right now. And it looks like it's hard for some of these linebackers to stay with G. Scott. I've noticed that over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
But I think that you're playing right into Chip Kelly and Ryan Day's hand if you play man. And then on the other side of the ball, one of my biggest things for Texas was they won't be able to hit explosive plays on Ohio State. No one has since the first Oregon game. So if you know that's not going to happen, that's a non-negotiable for Ohio State. Then that means Texas had to drive the ball. Driving the ball down the field consistently is not a way to beat Ohio State, especially if you're going to try and do it with the run.
Well,
I
what they're going
don't.
to try to do is they're going to try to take the Michigan game plan, where they're just going to run the ball, try to
Mm,
milk as much clock as possible, keep it away from Ohio State, and limit their possessions. And that's kind of what Texas tried to
yeah,
do too.
but again, what I try telling people is that when you say that, you say do Michigan's plan. These are the things that you're asking to happen. You're asking for Chip Kelly to lose his mind in a game, and then you're asking for your team in 1 week, to learn this very intricate defense that is basically ran by two organizations: the Baltimore Ravens and the University of Michigan Wolverines. And it's not one of the easiest things to pick up. And you're telling me that you're going to teach that to your boys in a week when you run almost 70% man? No. When you put someone in back, when you back someone in the corner, they will always revert to what they do. Notre Dame's going to run man in this game. They're going to run man to man.
They're definitely going to run a lot of man. But again, I think Texas did give them a little bit of a game plan as far as how to attack the offensive line of Ohio State. Because there were a couple times where they were able to send some pressure. They didn't pick it up super well. Stunting really gave Ohio State issues, specifically the guards. And if they can't fix those stunting issues, Notre Dame's front four is good enough to be able to get pressure by themselves. That's what allows them to play a lot of man-to-man, because their front four can get pressure, and then even, they can push the pocket back and then send some linebackers quickly to make sure that Howard has to get the ball, or the quarterbacks in general have to get the ball out of their hands quickly.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to say that Notre Dame is not going to be able to move the ball, because they will at some point. I think they're gonna have some drives, but I tend to agree with you that they're not going to be able to have these long sustained drives where they get touchdowns. And we saw that last possession against Texas. If you get in the red zone, you're just not going to score. I mean, they had the ball at the 1 yard line and they couldn't do it. I thought that play call, that toss play, was a really stupid call when Caleb came in, blew it up, and then Hancock ended up getting the tackle. I mean, that's really kind of lost them that chance.
I'll throw them some bail. Like, I saw Ohio State run that same play last week.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked. I mean, a lot of people are going to point to the play call. And yes, originally I thought the play call was dumb too. But let's be honest here. You had Caleb Downs see it from the get-go, and he gets he hits him and he pushes off Caleb Downs. Then you got Ransom right in your face, and then here comes Igbenogson. I think we're calling it a back.
Running a toss play to the boundary like that, when you've got the ball at the inside
on
the
1 yard line,
why not tush push it? I don't know.
Well,
did you think
honestly,
they made a mistake keeping Quinn in? Do you think they should have brought in Arch?
No. If you brought that freshman in, he would have got put in the torture chamber. I maybe on that, maybe they should have brought Arch in on a tush push right there. Maybe they should have right there. But I think that what was going through Sark's mind in that moment, and maybe this is just him being too smart for his own good. He has seen probably 5 to 6 occasions of teams trying to run the ball up the middle of Ohio State on the goal line, and it didn't happen. He saw Penn State try 3 times in a row. Penn State has one of the best offensive lines in the country. Didn't work. So I think he tried to outsmart the room. It bit him in the ass.
Yeah.
And then Jack Sawyer ended your life. It's just how it goes.
So what's so good about Notre Dame's front four? Riley Mills is pretty good up front. I mean, he's got 7.5 sacks on the season. That's a guy who can get after the quarterback. He is someone who is going to, he's going to line up wherever it's most advantageous for him to be able to match up. Now, they don't have, Donovan Hinish has 4.5 sacks. Jalen Snead's got 2.5 sacks. So they don't have a ton of, super rush guys. Mm-hmm. But as a team, they still have 38 sacks. That's not a small number. They get a decent amount of tackles for loss. That's the keys. They have a lot of plays where a lot of negative plays. And obviously for Ohio State, you want to stay on schedule. That's not what you want to do. Their secondary is very good. And that's what concerns me a little bit as well, especially with the boneheaded Will Howard throw that he had when he was trying to just force it into Jeremiah. If they try that again, it's going to be a problem because Xavier Watts has 6 picks. Aiden Schuler's got 3. Leonard Moore's got 2. Christian Gray's got 3. Like, they've got all kinds of guys who can get it.
A lot of that might have to do with the quarterbacks they played this season.
You're not wrong, but 19 interceptions is a big
it's impressive. I know Notre Dame has talent. I know Notre Dame is a good team. Man,
look, I know they're good. I know Mills isn't playing. My point is they've got guys who, they're not scrubs. They made it to the national championship game for a reason. Like, they beat a good Penn State team. They beat a good Georgia team. We made the mistake last week of saying that Ohio State was just going to run through Texas. Like, we thought it was going to be a blowout. And then, to be honest, we kind of got what we deserved. Texas showed that they're how good of a team they were, how they were able to, move the ball methodically. On their 2 touchdown drives, that is what they did. They moved the ball methodically. They found gaps in Ohio State. They found that the flats were open. Like, they would just dump it off to the running back in the flat, and he'd get 7 yards every time. And then once Ohio State came up on that, they'd go and run the wheel route, and that's how they scored the touchdowns. So I don't want to sit here and say it's just going to be a blowout because Notre Dame.
How many points do you think Notre Dame needs to win this game? Because this is what I try for myself to simplify these things. How many points do you think they need to win this game?
I think they're going to need at least probably 24 points.
Do you think they can get 24 on this defense?
They scored 27 against Penn State. Now, obviously,
that ain't the
Ohio
same.
State's defense
that
is
ain't
much
the
better.
Same.
Ohio State's defense is much better.
That's like saying I stopped Michigan's offense from getting 100 pass yards.
Well, and let me say this. Not all of those points may come from the offense. We just talked about their special teams. They've got multiple kick and punt returns for touchdowns this year. Ohio State special teams.
Until I see us give up one.
They came pretty damn close against Marshall. Look, do I think Ohio State's going to win this game? Yes. Do I think it's going to be closer than people think? Yes. However, we did say, the line, at least as of, when we made this, was 8.5, and it opened at 9.5. I think Ohio State covers, but I think it's going to be one of those games, kind of like the Cotton Bowl, where I think it's going to be close in the fourth quarter. I think Ohio State's eventually going to wear them down and make some big plays. What I am concerned about, the big concern for Ohio State here is beating themselves. Because, like I mentioned at the start of the show, that's the only way Texas was able to stay in it. Dumb penalties and the turnovers.
By the way, By the way, Notre Dame is 73rd in penalties against.
Yeah.
So they do get a lot of, they get penalized a lot.
So, we'll see if they actually call a holding penalty in this game. Well, until that happens,
Right.
I'm not going to, allow that. But again, if Ohio State can stop having those uncharacteristic, stupid penalties, I would be surprised if I saw another personal foul penalty from Ohio State. Like they had that Travion play was uncharacteristic of them. I don't think another player is going to make a dumb move like that. I think they're going to be able to clean up some of those holding calls. I thought the Josh Fryer call was probably fair. The G. Scott hold I thought was, again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen worse. I saw Texas do worse on the offensive line. So, they're not a team that holds a whole lot. Like, the offensive line doesn't get penalized a bunch. So, again, if they don't beat themselves, they win the national championship. That's my initial thought. What do you say?
So after the game in the Cotton Bowl, I was talking to my brother Dylan. And I mean, as you know, Ryan, I didn't have us win the national championship at the start of this playoff. I've been very honest and even kill about this and try to be very unbiased. And he told me after the game, he goes, "Nah, bruh. After this win, don't go on there with that unbiased, try to make everyone happy attitude." He said, "Screw all that. I'm right with it." I'm gonna tell you the same thing I said for Notre Dame the last 2 years. Notre Dame, when you step on this field with the Ohio State Buckeyes, I mean the Ohio State Buckeyes, come off the banks of the Olentangy River in Columbus, Ohio. You pack 5 gallons worth of holy water. Make sure you bring about 10 crosses, all gold. Make sure that you say your prayers at night, lunch, breakfast, dinner, all that. When you step on the field, these Ohio State Buckeyes, I promise you, hellfire and brimstone. I think we're gonna beat the dog shit out of them. I really do. I'm where you are at during the the Oregon game, but I'm past it. I'm past
Okay.
it.
So
I think we beat them 33-36 to 10 or 14.
So both of the prior matchups between these two in the last couple of years, they were close. I mean, one of them was the first game of the year, 21-10. Ohio State ended up winning that. And then obviously last year, Kyle McCord had what we thought was going to be an Ohio, a legacy drive for him. Just, and they ended up scoring with 1 second left on the clock. Both of those were low-scoring affairs, and that played in Notre Dame's hands. Now, this is going to be a neutral site
that
field.
was also within the first month of the season, which means you probably don't have everything going. You're probably not showing everything. Everyone's not playing their best ball. And sir, right here, this is what I'm telling you. I'm gonna read this to you, and when you hear this, I think it's gonna blow your mind. So on points per play so far, right? During the season, Ohio State was third. Notre Dame was fourth. Ohio State was at 0.571. Notre Dame was at 0.569. So just what, 0.02 under?
Yeah.
Since then, Ohio State has risen to 0.617, and they have dropped from 569 to 374. This is one of those games, the same way I felt about Notre Dame, Georgia. This is one of those games that I can't point to anything and tell you. I don't believe if Ohio State plays their B-plus game, they're losing.
Well,
I don't.
What we've been saying is I think the only way Notre Dame can win is if Ohio State beats Ohio State. And I think that's why Texas was able to keep it so close. But I also don't want to underestimate the emotion factor. Marcus Freeman's former Buckeye linebacker, that team's going to want to win for him to beat his old team. I know Marcus tried to downplay it. He's like, it doesn't matter where I went to school. This is not about that. It's about it's about our football team playing their football team. So they're going to come out with a lot of emotion and fire. And emotion, emotion can get you through a half, but then the second half comes out, and that's when the talent really starts to show. And I think
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Marcus Freeman. Let me tell you something. These facts, they don't care about your feelings. They don't. I can care less. This guy, like, Phil's in here, amazing man. He knows it. I'm a very proud black man. He'll win this championship. No siree. Not for him. Not for him.
Do I think Howard gets 10 plus carries in this game? I do not. He's not come close to that amount.
By the way,
this year.
my over one for Will Howard rushing yard.
Yeah, it's because of that one where he fell over. That's why. Yeah, I mean, I don't see him possibly getting that.
I'll go 5. I'll go 5. I'll go 5. I think it's 5+.
I think it's actually under 5. Just because
I think we have to run him.
Well, if you're gonna play so much man to man, just slant them to death. I mean, slant them, go route. They don't have guys. Jeremiah's a freak. I can tell you this.
By the way,
he's not gonna be held to 1 catch for 3 yards in this game. I can tell you that much.
I don't care what they do. That's not happening. And also, if you ever, I don't know if you said you did, but if you had a chance, if you watched the highlights, rewatch that USC game and watch number 29 on their defense. He's a corner, and then watch number 74, the left guard.
Okay.
Both of them are chop suey.
Okay.
Both of them.
So, before we wrap things up, what is your official score prediction? We'll have one more show before the game. So you're
as of today, we're going to go 33-14. 33-14.
Okay.
I think that Notre Dame, and this is of course as of now, their offensive line doesn't have the luxury that ours have had for the last month and a half, where they've had time to grow with each other within practice, and now 3 games. Or 4 games now. They don't have that luxury. You're about to walk in and play the number 1 rush defense in the country at all 4 levels, mind you, all 3 levels, from D tackle to linebacker to the DB. Every single level is really good at run defense. You're about to face a team that, Notre Dame thinks they have all this emotional leverage right now. I promise you, there is no one who has more emotional leverage over this Ohio State team who has not accomplished anything in their lives at Ohio State.
They're on a mission.
I promise you, if they don't win this national championship, these playoff wins mean nothing to me. They mean nothing to me.
I wouldn't say they mean nothing.
The most they would mean to me is that you show you can get there again, Ryan Day. You also showed you couldn't win it.
Fair.
And this ain't 2020 Alabama.
Okay. So I have
Georgia TCU.
I don't think it's be Georgia TCU. I don't see that.
You think there's Notre Dame who's better than that TCU team?
I think aspects of it are yes. I think defensively they're better.
Yeah.
I think offensively, no, they're not as dynamic. But special teams, Notre Dame's special teams are damn good.
Mm-hmm.
And
they are.
Even if they don't return one to the house, they can return one to midfield, and all of a sudden they've only got to go 20 yards to get themselves in range for points.
Mm-hmm.
I said it was going to be 27-10 Ohio State. I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game for Ohio State standards again. I just don't see how Notre Dame can possibly move the ball just well enough to have sustained drives to win games, because like you said, the only way they can move the ball is by running it. They're not a team that comes from behind well. The fact that they were to come back from double digits down to Georgia, 10 points, that was surprising. But they don't have the team to be able to play from behind because they don't have the explosive. They're explosive in the run game. Jeremiah Love is explosive in the run game. He's a guy.
I wish he was a Buckeye. I still wish he was.
He's good. And if he could break one off deep, but they're not going to have guys that break them off in the pass game. And if you get behind against Ohio State, that's what you're going to have to do, and you're screwed. So I think Ohio State is going to be able to pull away in the second half. I don't really think there's going to be too much reason to worry in the fourth quarter. This game might be put away by then. It could be 24-10 at that point. They might add a field goal on for some insurance. I would be shocked if Notre Dame scored more than 21 points in this game. Like the only way would be a pick six and then like a punt return add into that. I don't know.
See, I agree with it. If Notre Dame can turn into a fight, that's what I'll see it as.
Well, and the only way they're able to turn it into a dogfight is, again, if Ohio State beats themselves with stupid penalties and dumb turnovers. I think that's the only way they can truly stop.
And even then, you have to know they're still going to get to 20 plus. You have to know.
Yeah.
Even if they don't play the best ball. And
this one here, losing Trey Sermon did not stop Ohio State from winning the national championship in that game.
I second Philip. I am very.
Come on, man.
I am very. No. So this is why I tell people, Philip, I got you on this. I truly believe we are more suited to play that LSU team more than anyone else, and all specifically defensively, specifically on defense. Also, that year. If you're Alabama was actually not that good at stopping the run, and so going to that game,
their defense wasn't good, but like they scored 50.
No, bro, a lot of that had to do because we had linebackers chasing wide receivers.
Exactly.
And also, you have to remember, Justin wasn't even healthy in that game, and there was a point in the third quarter where we had a chance. There literally was a point midway to the third.
They got it to like 11. It wasn't. Look, okay, the reason why Trey Sermon is not the reason why they lost that game. Ohio State didn't lose that game anyway.
Part of the reason. I thought we were on the way to another Zeke run in the playoffs. That's what I thought we were about to have.
Yeah. We don't know if they can do such a thing. The only way they can do such a thing is if, like I said, it's Ohio State beating themselves. I think that's the overwhelming theme I keep coming back to because the talent gap is so great. That's the only way I see them winning this game. And I know you kind of feel the same.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's only been, Texas has now, but Texas just, I think you probably agree with me. I thought either Texas, Oregon, or Ohio State win the national championship this year. I thought those were the three best teams this season, most way throughout. But outside of Texas being Texas, only the Wolverines have turned into a dogfight. Nebraska too, but there's again, you're talking about scenarios in that game with the offensive line that happened. If it was that easy to turn into a backyard brawl with Ohio State, more people would do it.
I agree.
It is not the easiest thing to do. And I think the reason why it's not the easiest thing to do is because, as you've seen this Texas game, they welcomed it.
Yep.
They welcomed it. And that was not a way for that was not a game that Ryan Day wants to see his team win. And there was part of me, I want to ask you about this actually real quick before we get out of here. There was part of me during the game thinking to myself, Ryan Day is doing this shit on purpose right now.
No.
There was part of me, man. I'm telling you.
No.
I'll tell you why. I think
he wanted to win that game by 35. You think he wanted that stress in the fourth quarter? Give me.
I'll tell you what. These coaches are so psycho. Would I be surprised if one purposely tried to win a game in a certain way just to show that he can do it?
Yes, that's insane.
I think big time head coaches in college football are insane.
In playoff games, they're not going to do that. Are you kidding me?
I've seen coaches do dumber things in playoff games. I
could not be more against you on this.
I saw a coach have Marshawn Lynch in the backfield and throw a pass on the 1 yard line.
That was stupid.
That's what I saw.
All right. So wrapping this up here. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Collins show Thursday. So bring your comments. We'll drop the links so you guys can join us. It'll be the last show before the game. We're not gonna have a show on Monday. We'll figure out. We'll probably end up having a show on Tuesday to react, one way or the other.
Yeah.
But the next time we will see you guys, it'll be Thursday. So, like I said, bring your comments, and we'll talk to you all then. So, until then, OH.
IO.